When Naima Cole first walked through the gates of Eastridge High, no one noticed her, and maybe that's what she preferred. Quiet, collected, 17, with eyes that had seen more than most adults ever would. Her mother had moved them here for a fresh start. But in Naima's experience, fresh starts usually smelled like moldy hallways, judgmental stares, and trouble waiting to happen. She didn't talk much, didn't brag. But what nobody at Eastridge knew, what not even her teachers could guess, was that Naima had spent the last 5 years training in a tiny, no-frills dojo above a fish market in Atlanta. She didn't train for belts or trophies. She trained for control. Control was the one thing she still had left. It started on a Tuesday. The boy's name was Kellen Reed, star quarterback, class clown, king of smirks and snide comments. Wherever Kellen went, his pack followed. 4 boys who laughed on command and fed off his arrogance like vultures at a feast. When Kellen first saw Naima, he didn't see a threat. He saw prey. "You knew?" he asked, standing a little too close near her locker. His voice was smooth, but the eyes were sharp, calculating. Naima didn't respond. She simply nodded and reached for her books. He smirked. "That's cute. See, thing is, new people, they pay a little. Insurance. Just a few bucks a week. You know, protection. Friendly terms." Naima blinked once, then slowly closed her locker. "Protection from what?" Kellen leaned in. "From me." And that was the beginning. At first, it was small. A missing lunch, a kicked-over backpack, ugly whispers in the hallway. But then, the games got cruel. Someone hacked into the school system, changed her profile photo into a photoshopped image with racist symbols. Someone else reported her for disruptive behavior. Teachers grew cold. Students whispered louder. She found the N-word scrawled across her desk in dry erase marker one morning. By lunch, the tables had emptied when she walked into the cafeteria. Isolation dripped like poison into every corner of her school life. And still, she said nothing. Not to her mother, not to her teachers, not to the principal, because Naima knew what she was capable of, and she feared it. But Kellen didn't stop. He shoved her in the hallway one day, hard enough to rattle the lockers. His boys laughed like hyenas. "Oh, look, the little ninja fell down. What you gonna do? Karate chop me?" Naima looked up from the floor, and for the first time, her gaze met his. No fear, just a slow, deliberate breath. Something in Kellen hesitated, but it passed. To him, she was still just a quiet girl, no friends, no allies, just a broken kid hiding behind silence. But what none of them realized was that silence is not the absence of power. It's the space before the storm. And the storm was coming. The next day, it rained. The kind of rain that soaks you through even when you're under a roof. The kind that makes the air smell like tension. At 12:45 p.m., during the third period lunch break, Naima stepped out into the courtyard behind the gymnasium. She had her earbuds in, hoodie pulled up, and a plastic container of rice and vegetables from home. She sat alone on the concrete bench, facing the back fence. And that's when it happened. Kellen and his boys rounded the corner like they were entering an arena. Kellen's grin was wide and practiced, the kind of grin that said, "This is my world." "Hey," he called out, "little ninja girl, you deaf now?" She didn't move. His voice sharpened. "Yo, I'm talking to you. You don't get to ignore me." Naima looked up slowly, pulled out one earbud, and said nothing. "What? Too good for us now?" Kellen took a step forward, slapping the container of food out of her hands. It hit the pavement with a wet splatter. His boys howled with laughter. One of them picked up her backpack and tossed it over the fence like it was a joke. Naima stood up. No words, no expression, only silence. "What? You gonna cry now?" Kellen taunted, stepping closer. "You know what I think? I think you're all talk. That whole Zen silence crap? It's just fear pretending to be mystery. And I'm gonna prove it." He raised a hand to push her again. And that's when it happened. It was so fast no one saw the beginning of it. 1 second, Kellen was cocky and smirking, and the next, he was flat on the wet ground, gasping for air, clutching his ribs. His boys didn't even have time to react. The second one lunged forward. Naima twisted, using his own weight against him, sending him crashing into a bench. His elbow cracked against the metal with a sickening thud. The third tried to grab her from behind. Naima ducked, swept his legs, and he hit the concrete with a stunned grunt. She didn't even break rhythm. Her movements were clean, sharp, like she'd choreographed the entire fight in her head 100 times before it even began. Only one remained. The fourth boy hesitated, caught between loyalty and fear. His eyes darted from Kellen, who was wheezing on the ground, to the others, all writhing or stunned. Naima stared at him, and he ran. The courtyard was dead silent. Rain trickled off the rooftops. Thunder rolled in the distance. Naima stood in the center, her hoodie soaked, her fists clenched at her sides. Not out of rage, but restraint. Kellen tried to speak, but couldn't. He looked up at her, confused, humiliated, and for the first time in his charmed little life, afraid. "You wanted to know what I'd do," she said quietly, her voice cutting through the storm like a blade. "That's what I'd do." She turned, walked to the fence, climbed over it, retrieved her backpack, and walked back across the courtyard like nothing had happened. No cheers, no applause, just the sound of rain and the legend beginning. The next day everything changed. Whispers followed her now, but they were different. They weren't mocking. They were reverent. Someone left a smoothie on her desk with a sticky note. Respect. In the locker room, a girl who had never spoken to her before said, damn. And Naima just nodded. But it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about reputation. It was about balance. She didn't start that fight, but she finished it. From that day on, no one dared touch her. Not because they feared her fists, but because they had finally seen her. Not the quiet girl, not the new girl, not the stereotype they tried to box her into. They saw the storm she had kept hidden all along. And in the silence she returned to, there was no longer fear. There was peace. Kellen returned to school 2 days later, bruised, quieter, and with a look in his eyes that said he'd learned something fear could never teach. Respect. He never bothered Naima again. Neither did anyone else. But Naima didn't become a queen bee or a local celebrity. She didn't want the spotlight. She just wanted to live in peace. And now, finally, she could. She still walked alone, hoodie up, earbuds in. But now, when she passed through the halls, the space around her parted. Not out of fear, but reverence. Because everyone at East Ridge now understood. Still waters don't mean there's no fire beneath. And sometimes, the quietest ones hit the hardest. If you enjoyed this story and you want more powerful, dramatic tales just like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There are more stories coming that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.